See this smile? This isn't just a regular granny smile. This is the smile of a woman who just pulled off the ultimate heist. No guns, no masks, just pure, unadulterated, calculated, cold-blooded revenge. Let's rewind. My name's Clara. For 40 years I was married to Arthur. 40 long years. That's not a marriage, that's a sentence. I was the good wife, the ride-or-die kind. I supported him when his father's legacy family business went down the drain. I worked 2 jobs, skipped meals, and handled all the boring non-clout chasing stuff, like taxes and legal paperwork, while he was busy complaining. I never said a word. Why? Because that's what a ride-or-die does. And Arthur? He was just Arthur, obsessed with looking successful without doing the actual work. He was always tapping about the big break that was just around the corner. A regular clout goblin who'd buy a fake gold watch to impress people he didn't even like. But I stood by him, foolishly thinking that my loyalty was the ultimate investment. But on our 40th anniversary, the reality check didn't just knock. It busted down the door with a thermal breaching charge. We had planned to go to a nice restaurant. Nothing fancy, just our usual spot. I was looking decent, even put on my favorite mustard yellow coat for the occasion. You can see it in the thumbnail. It's iconic. I was waiting by the door, handbag in hand, ready for a little celebratory dinner. The clock struck 7 p.m. 7:15, 7:30. No Arthur. I thought he was just stuck in traffic. Standard Arthur procedure. Then, ping. I looked down at my phone. A text from Arthur. A notification that felt like a backstab in 4K. It read, "Clara, the news just broke. The Sterling construction site, my father's old legacy property? Yeah, it's being rezoned as a prime development zone. I just inherited $1 million family fortune. And guess what? I'm done. I'm done with the average life. I'm done with this cramped apartment. And I'm done with you. The paperwork for the divorce is in an envelope on the kitchen table. Don't call me. This is my ticket to freedom. My ticket to being that guy." I stared at the screen. The words, "I'm filing for divorce," twice, because he's an idiot and double-tapped his keyboard, as you can see in the picture, were glowing like the indicator lights on a meltdown. The man I'd sacrificed 40 years for had just traded me for a bag of cash. He didn't even have the cojones to say it to my face. $1 million. That was his ticket. His way out of being the mid-guy he'd always been. Any other woman would have thrown the phone across the room, screamed, cried, or immediately called a lawyer to demand half. Most women would have been pressed into a breakdown, but not Clara. I stood there for a full minute, just looking at the mustard yellow coat, then the handbag, then the phone. My heart was pounding, sure. It felt like I'd just been nerfed into a completely different game with a level 1 character. But something else was starting to overload the panic. A feeling that had been dormant for 40 years. It was spite. A cold, calculating, beautiful spite. I walked into the kitchen. There it was, a thick brown manila envelope sitting right next to the salt shaker. I didn't even open it. I knew what was inside. The papers, the official delete button on our 4-decade connection. I grabbed a pen from the drawer. My signature was a force of habit. It was quick, clean, and perfectly placed on every single page. No questions asked. No final pleas for a second chance. Just Clara. I threw the signed papers back in the envelope and sealed it. I was done. Finito. I was about to give Arthur exactly what he wanted. His freedom. But you see, Arthur made a huge mistake. He was so busy tripping over his new wealth and bragging to his friends that he forgot to check one very important thing. In his haste to cancel me, he overlooked a tiny, insignificant, low-key detail. He was so sure his new rich life was guaranteed. But he had no idea he had just walked into a trapped room, and I was the one with the master key. His $1 million ticket was about to become his $0 nightmare. He thought he knew all the angles, but he was about to find out that his wife had been playing the long game for years, and I was cracked at the strategy part. 1 week. That's how long it took for Arthur to go from average Joe to a full-blown clout demon. He didn't even wait for the ink on the divorce papers to dry before he started burning through cash like it was Monopoly money. He'd moved out of our apartment in the middle of the night, leaving behind nothing but a half-eaten pizza and a sense of relief that I hadn't felt in decades. I was sitting in my new spot, a quiet high-end rental I'd secured with my own savings, because unlike Arthur, I actually knew how to stack my bread, when I heard the roar of a V8 engine outside. It was loud, obnoxious, and screamed midlife crisis. I looked out the window. There he was, Arthur, in a shiny red Ferrari that probably cost more than our first 3 houses combined. He was wearing a designer suit that was clearly 2 sizes too small and a pair of sunglasses indoors. Total cringe energy. He didn't just knock on my door, he hammered on it like he was the main character. When I opened it, he didn't even say hello. He just leaned against the doorframe, trying to look aesthetic. "Sup, Clara," he sneered, tossing a set of keys in the air. "Just thought I'd drop by and show you what freedom looks like. This car, it's a beast. The penthouse I just signed for, it's got a view of the whole city. No more cramped kitchens, and no more, well, you." I just leaned back, arms crossed, wearing that same mustard yellow coat. "Nice car, Arthur. Hope the insurance isn't too taxing for you." He laughed, a loud, forced sound. "Insurance, money is no object now. That $1 million inheritance from my dad's distant uncle is the real deal. I'm finally living the life I was meant for. I'm him, Clara. I'm the guy everyone wants to be. And you're just the woman who signed her life away for nothing." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of hundreds, fanning them out like a low-tier rapper. "I almost feel bad for you. Almost. But hey, you signed the papers without a word. No fight, no drama. I guess even you knew you weren't worth the investment anymore." I stayed silent. Just like the title says, Clara's silence. I let him flex his borrowed glory. I let him talk about his legacy and his future. I let him think he was the one who had successfully canceled me. "You done?" I asked calmly. "Yeah, I'm done. I'm heading to the coast tonight. Private party. High rollers only. You wouldn't understand the vibe," he said, turning to walk away toward his red Ferrari. "Arthur," I called out. He stopped and looked back, a smug grin on his face. "Check your banking app," I said, my voice as cold as a glacier. "And maybe read the fine print on that inheritance letter one more time. You might find a little glitch in your plan." He rolled his eyes. "Always the pessimist. That's why I left you. You can't handle the grind." He hopped into his car and sped off, leaving a cloud of expensive exhaust behind. He had no idea he was driving straight into a dead end. See, Arthur was so busy looking at the numbers on the screen that he forgot to check the source code. He thought he inherited that money because of his last name. He forgot that his father's distant uncle, the one who actually made the money, was my godfather. And my godfather knew exactly what kind of finesse Arthur was capable of. Arthur's $1 million ticket came with a very specific, very hidden nerf. It was a trust fund trap, and the trigger? Filing for divorce from me. He thought he was being smart by ghosting me, but by signing those papers without a word, I wasn't giving up. I was activating the kill switch on his fortune. Arthur was living his best life, or at least he thought he was. He had spent the last 48 hours clout chasing at every high-end club in the city, dropping stacks of cash like it was confetti. He'd even started calling himself King Artie on his social media, posting pictures of his red Ferrari and his ice, that shiny new watch he'd bought. He was tripping on a power high, thinking he'd finally made it to the big leagues. He'd invited a group of new friends, mostly leeches, who were only there for the free drinks, to the most exclusive rooftop lounge in town. The bill was already pushing 5 figures. Arthur was feeling main character energy, leaning back in his VIP booth, soaking in the attention. "Another round for everyone. Put it on the black card," he shouted, waving his hand like he owned the place. The waiter arrived with a tray of the most expensive champagne on the menu. He swiped Arthur's card. Beep. Declined. The waiter tried again. Beep. Declined. Sir, there seems to be an issue with the card," the waiter said, his voice dropping the VIP tone instantly. Arthur laughed it off. "Must be a glitch in the system. That card has a limit higher than your life savings, buddy. Try it again." The waiter swiped it a 3rd time. Beep. Declined. Now the table was getting quiet. The vibe shifted from party to cringe in a heartbeat. Arthur's friends started looking at their phones, suddenly very interested in anything else but him. Arthur's face went from smug to a ghastly shade of pale. He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app, ready to show the waiter his millions. His eyes nearly popped out of his head. Balance, $0. He refreshed the page. $0. He checked his recent transactions. There was a massive withdrawal labeled trust reversion, breach of terms. No, 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 no. This is cap. This has to be a mistake," Arthur stammered, his voice cracking. He tried his other cards. Declined, declined, declined. The manager arrived, looking pressed. "Sir, if you can't pay the tab, we're going to have to call security. And I'm going to need the keys to that Ferrari you valeted. It's being impounded as we speak." "Impounded? On what grounds?" Arthur screamed, attracting the attention of the whole lounge. "Non-payment of the lease agreement," the manager said coldly. "Turns out, the dealership received a stop payment order from the trust fund that was backing your credit line." Arthur was shook. He looked around at his friends, but they were already ghosting him, slipping out the back exit so they wouldn't be associated with the guy who just flopped. He was left standing there, alone, with a $15,000 bill and a heart that was hitting meltdown levels. He remembered what I'd said. Check the fine print. He scrambled to find the digital copy of the inheritance letter on his phone. He scrolled past the $1 million headline, past the legacy talk, down to the very bottom, hidden in microtext. Clause 4.2. The beneficiary must remain in a stable, legally recognized marriage with the spouse designated by the trust founder's goddaughter. Any attempt to terminate said marriage via divorce or separation will result in the immediate and total reversion of all assets to the co-trustee, Clara. Arthur's world didn't just crash, it was deleted. He hadn't inherited a fortune. He'd inherited a conditional allowance that he'd just set on fire by trying to leave me. By filing for divorce, he hadn't won his freedom. He'd handed me the keys to the entire vault. He realized he wasn't him. He wasn't the king. He was just a clown who had traded a 40-year diamond for a piece of glass that had just shattered. "I need to call Clara," he whispered, his hands shaking. "She'll help me. She always helps me. She's my ride or die." But when he dialed my number, he didn't get my voice. He got a recorded message. "The number you are trying to reach has been blocked. Please enjoy your freedom, Arthur. You earned it." Arthur slumped into the velvet booth, his clout gone, his money gone, and his dignity canceled. He was back to being the mid-guy he always was, but this time there was no Clara to catch him when he fell. After getting clapped at the rooftop lounge and having his Ferrari yoinked by the repo men, Arthur spent 3 hours walking in the rain. His designer shoes were cooked, and his ego was in the gutter. He had no cash, his cards were dead on arrival, and his new friends had blocked him faster than a spam caller.